Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super review. This time reviewing episodes 109 and 110. Goku continues to fight with Ribrianne, who pulls out all her stops against him in an attempt to get her wish. However, as he quickly deals with her with Blue, Jiren appears. His god of destruction tells him now is the time to use his power, and he should start by crushing Son Goku. Goku tries to get in a good fight by slowly increasing his power, but once he reaches his full power, he realizes Jiren is still more than a match for him, and starts getting beaten. Goku realizes he has to use his trump card, the Genki Dama, powered by the Genki of all the Universe 7 contestants. But even then, Jiren manages to hold back the Genki Dama and send it back to Goku. Goku falls, but doesn't stay down for long. In fact, he gets back up looking very different, with silver eyes and a different kind of aura. He begins taking on Jiren and Universe 11 with ease, moving seemingly unconsciously. Whis realizes what happened to him. It's the mastery of self-movement, Migate no Gokui, or Ultra Instinct. As Goku was hit by the Genki Dama, the power needed to resist it caused him to break his own limits, with the power of the Genki Dama temporarily restoring his stamina. But while he puts up a good fight against Jiren, the form eventually runs out, and Jiren defeats him. Hit attempts to fight Jiren in his stead, as Goku wakes to see Frieza ominously hovering over him. So, what did I like about these episodes? Well, first of all, I really enjoyed Goku's fight with Ribrianne. I mean, for one, the fight actually looked really surprisingly well animated, and also I just really enjoyed the more magical girl references that we got with Ribrianne, basically pulling out all of her trump cards. I mean, when she tries to get a power-up, she does it by getting her teammates to almost literally pull out the miracle lights from the Pretty Cure movies. If you guys were wondering the context behind the whole them just randomly pulling out these pink lights and then sort of yelling at Ribrianne to do her best and that making her get stronger, like, that is a thing, like, that is an actual, like, really, like, well-established thing that happens in basically all of the Pretty Cure movies. Like, they do a big kind of audience spectacle moment out of it, and it was so oddly specific it had to be a reference, and hey, it was a reference I completely understood. And then you have her power-up form, basically just her with wings, and then like her making like a bow and arrow and using the bow and arrow as like her big like final attack thing. I think the only way you could have made this more magical girl is if like her outfit got more frilly or got a bit more white or something like that. I'm basically just as familiar with magical girl tropes as I am familiar with like shonen action tropes, so it's like when this stuff shows up, first of all, I can immediately recognize them, and second of all, it's just so much fun. Like, it's like my two favorite genres meshing together, and we got to see more of it. I also really enjoyed kind of round one of Goku versus Jiren, where Goku tries to do the thing which he does with basically everyone else and kind of start off like holding back and then like gradually trying to get stronger until he gets his full power, but then it doesn't really work properly with Jiren, because with Jiren, it's like Goku realizes he's so strong that this whole thing isn't really going to work. Like, he doesn't even move when he's Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2. When he's Super Saiyan God, he just holds out a finger, and even with Super Saiyan Blue and with Kaioken, he's still getting wrecked. I also enjoy the sort of overlying sort of theme of the Goku-Jiren fight, the sort of idea that essentially it's like, well, Goku and Jiren are just so strong and like so interesting that it's like, that if Jiren beats Goku, everyone is basically going to immediately lose their morale and will to fight, because they'll realize it's pretty much pointless to stand against him if even Goku couldn't with all of his transformations. I like this because it gave us a kind of like bigger sort of in-universe and sort of out-of-universe reason to care about this fight in the first place. It wasn't just the like, oh hey, it's the fight between the two strong guys because we know they're the strong guys. It's sort of like, you know, the winner of this fight might end up kind of like really affecting the tournament and affecting how everybody views the tournament from this point onwards. It was also nice to see Toei throw in their little explanation from I think movie 7 as to why Goku's never used the Genki Dama and Super Saiyan at the same time, kind of being the idea that you need a pure heart to use the Genki Dama. I don't think it was an explanation that was actually needed, and I also don't even know if this is necessarily a Toriyama thing at all, but it is nice to see them put in things that try to kind of explain the story a little bit more and try to make everything make a bit more sense in context. But moving on from 109 to 110, pretty much the biggest thing about this episode, and the thing that I specifically really enjoyed, was Goku's new form, this mastery of self-movement, or Migate no Gokui, or I swear that's the last time I'm going to use that term because the subs do call it Ultra Instinct, so Ultra Instinct. Ultra Instinct Goku is really, really cool. And there are like 6 reasons as to why I think it's really awesome. Number 1, the very concept of this form, this idea of having like your body sort of like almost move unconsciously without you having to think about things. Like that is something that has actually been foreshadowed ever since Resurrection F, the movie, with Whis explaining that Goku and Vegeta needed to learn that at one point and they'd become much stronger because of it. For a while I thought that we'd basically almost completely forgotten about Resurrection F entirely, but it seems like that's not the case, with both Frieza coming back and now this. It does feel like this story is actually interconnected. That one random arc about Frieza coming back is kind of being related to what's been going on now in Super. Number 2, it's a form where I can totally understand why it would be a form that would be inherently stronger than like all of the other forms of Super Saiyan or whatever. Like this form stands out because it's not necessarily just like, oh, you got a power boost, or now you have a times 5,000 multiplier compared to your times 1,000 multiplier, or whatever it is. Like this is something that's inherently different to everything that Goku has ever done, in that like his body has got this instinct now of so what to do and how to dodge attacks and how to fight and everything like that. Like I can totally understand why that would be something that would be stronger than basically anything else that Goku's ever done, because it basically takes out all of the mental busy work in fighting. Like I could totally understand how that could just make you inherently faster and inherently stronger. This is a stronger form, and I can understand it's a stronger form without having to think about complicated maths equations and different chains of characters being morphed by other characters. Like this just makes clear logical sense. And I know I'm acting like that almost sounds revolutionary for Dragon Ball, but maybe it kind of almost is. Number 3, the way Goku got his form. Like in one way it's almost a little bit kind of dumb, and also a little bit kind of like, you could almost say a little bit kind of ass pulley, where it's just like, oh, Goku just sort of happened to basically get hit really hard and he almost died, but because he didn't die, and because he tried really hard, he just broke through his limits and he got this new form and stuff. But, on the other hand, I mean, well, first of all, it's basically the same as pretty much any other time Goku got a power-up, broke through his limits through training. I mean, presumably that's how he got Super Saiyan 2 and 3 at some point. He pushed himself really hard and he broke through his limits. This is basically the exact same thing, except that we just happened to see the trigger moment, the moment where he actually got it on screen as opposed to seeing it off screen. But also, seeing a moment like this made me kind of surprised that we have never really seen a moment like this actually on screen. Like a mid-fight power-up obtained from working really hard. Every other time we've seen a mid-battle power-up, it's because the character got a rage boost. Like this is something completely different, but I can't deny that there's something just kind of almost sort of like inspirational about it all. Like when all hope is lost and when it looks like you're almost going to die, you just pull through and work really hard to stay alive and try your very hardest, and through that you break through your limits and get something that you've never gotten before, and get way stronger because of it. So it's not really a rage boost, and it's not really training, and maybe it is kind of a little bit contrived, but it's also really fun. Number 4, the animation. Holy crap, the animation. It was amazing in some points. The last part of 110 probably had some of the coolest looking pieces of animation. Probably cooler than episode 66 with Merged Damasu and Vegito Blue. It just looked great. The animation was on point, and the art especially was on point, especially during those last parts, which I think were like Yuya Takahashi and Naoto Ishida's cuts at the very end. Like those looked amazing. Number 5. Speaking of animation, that part during the fight between Goku and Jiren, where they actually start like reusing animation of the opening of the parts between Goku and Jiren. And normally, people would say like, oh, it's just reused animation, it's kind of contrived and whatnot. But the way that they put those scenes there over kind of dialogue of Goku breaking his own limits and stuff like that, it sort of started making me believe that like all those scenes between Goku and Jiren in the opening and everything about the opening was in fact all just blatant foreshadowing for this moment. I mean, Limit Break Survivor is literally a song about like, fighting strong guys and also breaking your limits. I mean, there's one point in the lyrics where it says something like, the door of possibilities is still locked. Oh well, I guess I'll just break through the door again. So yeah, basically Goku is the guy who's breaking his limits, both in the opening and in the visuals in the opening and in episode 110 and in the visuals in episode 110. It was a really nice just kind of like visual throwback, it's kind of similarity, and it wasn't lazy. It felt like it actually had like a symbolic point to it. And number 6, the music. Oh god, the music! I mean, just throughout these 2 episodes, all of the music was basically on point. I counted, I think, maybe like 5 new tracks by Sumitomo that played during them. One of them was a different instrumental version of Limit Break Survivor, which is always my kind of thing. I always love those kinds of tracks in anime, and the fact that there were all these kind of like new tracks made it almost feel like they were all being designed specifically for this moment. And because of that, it felt like they were really kind of like working the visuals around the music as well, or the other way around. Like, it felt like they were really well integrated in this episode. And then to top all of it off, we got an insert song. An insert song. It's called Ultimate Battle, sung by Akira Kushida. Did some openings for Toriko apparently, and some things for like other like tokusatsu series. But like, an insert song. I have been waiting 110 episodes for Dragon Ball Super to put in an insert song. It's really one of the things that I've wanted the most from this series. Some of the insert song moments in Dragon Ball Z are some of my favorite moments in Dragon Ball Z because of that. And the same for a lot of them in Dragon Ball. Kai also had a lot of insert songs, but GT didn't have any. I mean, I'm not saying that, you need an insert song for a series to be good, but I love insert songs because when that happens, it basically just makes you know that the showrunners know that this moment is important. In fact, they know it's important and they care so much that they're going to get somebody else to compose a piece of music and put that piece of music specifically and only in this one scene, and kind of build the entire scene around that song. And the song was really good. It really got you excited. It had a lot of energy to it. Plus the fact that it has kind of a really short melody line means it's really catchy. Unfortunately, the subs didn't show any sort of lyrics to the song, so I don't even know what the song's about properly, but I really liked the way they handled it. They played it at the exact right moment. They knew which parts of the songs were sort of less important, so they could put sort of dialogue scenes in it, and which parts of the songs were more important, so they would basically just show the action and not have any like exposition at all. And it was just probably the best place you could have put in an insert song, when Goku gets his new form, surprising everyone, and starts really kind of turning the tables on a fight, which we thought he wouldn't be able to win. But despite all that, there were still some things I didn't like about these episodes. First of all, like I said, I do really enjoy Ribrianne, and well, yeah, I do enjoy Ribrianne. There were some things about the way that she was handled in 109 and a bit of 110 that I didn't really enjoy. I mean, I think the reason why I sort of liked Ribrianne especially is because really the way that she was presented most of the time was, at the end of the day, she really was just kind of another fighter, another person that Goku had to fight. The difference is that like her attacks and everything were just kind of like magical girl themed, in the same way that like the Pride Troopers are kind of Sentai themed, and Universe 3 are all kind of like mecha themed. But the problem was here, they started treating her less like another fighter, but also still another legitimate fighter, and more kind of just like kind of a joke, and something that Goku could have dealt with in like 5 seconds because, hey, I mean, magical girl logic doesn't work in shonen action series or something like that. Before, they were kind of showing the idea that Ribrianne actually can fight, but here it was just more like, actually, no, she's actually not really a threat at all, and Goku was basically just entertaining her this entire time. And then after she gets defeated, she starts acting less like another fighter in the tournament and more like a specific nuisance to Universe 7. Like, she tries to attack Goku while he's charging up the Genki Dama, and then during the Goku and Jiren fight, Vegeta keeps getting occupied and fighting her. And all I'm left asking is just like, why? Because in her other appearances, even if she might have been a little bit, some people might have found her annoying, she was still a legitimate character, but here and now it just feels like all she is there to do is to get in everyone's way, as opposed to just being a fighter. Plus, there was all that her kind of acting like a massive tsundere to Jiren, kind of being like, oh, I bet you're in love with me. Oh, what? You're not in love with me? Well, fine then. But then she can't stop herself from like blushing. And that, I felt, kind of went past the realms of sort of just like parody and more into kind of like bad stereotyping. I mean, I don't really know any tsundere magical girls other than maybe like Rei Hino from Sailor Moon, but I don't really know. Also, Vegeta decides to not give Goku any energy for the Genki Dama. Because he's Vegeta, I guess. I mean, I'm assuming he probably had reasons, and he did still actually end up helping Goku use the Genki Dama, just kind of more in his own unique Vegeta way. But, it says a lot if even Frieza, the guy who got almost killed by a Genki Dama, is willing to contribute to it, and Vegeta is still so stubborn he's not going to do it in the same way as everyone else does. Also, why the Genki Dama? I mean, I know it worked for a kind of a plot reason, but like, in terms of like in-universe logic kind of thing, like, why would Goku even choose to use the Genki Dama? Krillin was implying that it's sort of like the Genki Dama was Goku's trump card, and he basically always uses it, and it's like almost always going to help them. But like, if you look at it in canon, that's kind of not really even that true. Goku only really chooses to use the Genki Dama twice, against Vegeta and against Frieza, and they both fail. After that, Goku never chooses to use it. It's Vegeta who's the one who decides that they should use it against Majin Buu, and in that case, that was only really because he wanted the Earthlings to take responsibility for their own planet for once, and the Genki Dama was a way of doing that. Not to mention, the only things that Goku knew he could probably get Genki out of were his friends from Universe 7, and on their own, that doesn't seem like that would be enough energy to really kind of make a massive trump card that could totally beat Jiren, this guy that Super Saiyan Blue, with Kaioken times 20, wouldn't even be able to beat. I mean, yeah, sure, if you live in non-canon DBZ movie world, it totally makes sense as to why you'd think that Genki Dama was the trump card, because that is always used at the end, and that basically always works. But if you think about it in canon, that doesn't really feel like it's the case. Also, they kind of still forgot to kind of characterize Jiren. I mean, I'm not going to say he has no personality and no redeeming traits, because there's been some stuff with Toppo and the Universe 11 God of Destruction that kind of implied that there is something more to Jiren, and he does have some kind of, at least some kind of almost backstory of his own. But the thing is, in this episode, the episode where Jiren kind of goes into action, we didn't really get to see any of that. We only really got hints of it. And I mean, honestly, I think this franchise has been going on for far too long for the audience to really be able to accept that the main antagonist is just a really strong guy who's also kind of silent. It almost feels like it's kind of going into the territory of kind of like a parody of a kind of intimidating antagonist, as opposed to like an actual intimidating antagonist. I mean, at one point, the God of Destruction mentions that Jiren's like special fighting style is basically him taking his opponent's most powerful attack and basically just like crushing it, to which I have to say, isn't that basically like what all antagonists do? Like, that's kind of like a feature of being an antagonist, that you take the hero's strongest attack like really quickly and really easily. So I don't know, maybe we'll get some more of the next few episodes, I'm not sure. Also, I hate to be that person, but I can't lie to myself about this. The thing that they did with Masuka Nozawa's voice when Goku was using the Ultra Instinct form was a little bit kind of Nami. Like, a little bit kind of like, it took me out of the action a little bit. I don't know, just something that the way they did it with like putting a lower voice in, it kind of just felt much more manufactured as opposed to like something that would realistically come out of somebody's voice if they were using a really powerful form. Like, I can't really explain to you why, but it's almost like it kind of hit the sort of uncanny valley for me, and I'm just like, ugh, I know what you're trying to do, but I can't get over the fact that I can tell that you're basically just like taking her voice and like sort of pitching it down a bit and then sort of doubling it like that. So as for next episode, well, Hit is now going to be the one fighting Jiren. The two strong, silent badasses that Goku fought at one point are now going to fight each other. And, well, from what we've seen with Jiren, it's kind of seeming a bit less likely that Hit will actually be able to defeat him. I think the big question in this episode is going to be whether or not Hit basically stays in the tournament after fighting Jiren. But this is actually getting much more interesting. It kind of feels like all of the plot lines from all those other episodes are all sort of starting to converge. Like, you know, that part where they said that only the strong fighters are left. At first I was kind of not really sure if that was the case, but now I am starting to believe it, because we are getting different people now sort of fighting with each other and sort of meeting up with each other, and it does feel like we are kind of getting to the eventual sort of payoff of the build-up of all of those other episodes where we just kind of got like weird episodic adventures from random universes. So that was Dragon Ball Super episode 109 and 110. Well, that basically broke the internet, and I think I know why. There were just so many things in this episode that were just really basically so hype and so interesting, and basically just the kind of things that really, really kind of gripping. You know, Goku having to fight a guy and he's using all his strongest forms, and the guy is just like easily deflecting all of them. The return of the Genki Dama, and Goku getting a new form, something which doesn't happen very often. Goku getting a new form, showing off that form, and showing off that form in a really awesome sequence involving amazing animation and unique music and insert songs. That is not something that happens very often, and just seeing that sequence made me really understand why they've been hyping up this special for like months. I really do love the moments when a major character gets a new form that we've never seen before. It kind of feels like we're at a moment in the story where it just sort of feels like, from this point onwards, everything is going to change. Goku is now never going to be the same because of the events of Super, because of the Tournament of Power, because of him fighting Jiren in 109 and the beginning of 110. Basically, the status quo of the entire franchise has changed forever, or at least until the point where Vegeta gets the form as well, or something like that. And Toei knew this, and knew this was important enough to really put their best foot forward into trying to make that look as cool as possible. And I think people bought it. Oh, that was tiring. How long did that review even go for? Probably much longer than it normally would, because I did 2 episodes at once, and I did it basically in the same format as I would with 1 episode, and there was a lot to talk about, but yeah, so sorry if that went on for way too long, but I feel like I got all my points across. It'll be very interesting to see what happens from this point onwards, because it does seem like this is a big sort of turning point in the Tournament of Power, but at the same time there's also a lot of things in the Tournament of Power that we haven't really seen be concluded yet, so I wonder if the conclusions of all those other subplots will be anywhere as cool as this. Probably not, but if they at least attempt to do that, this arc is going to be really, really fun. So this is Gabby, signing out, and I'll see you all next week. Bye guys!